Good afternoon. Welcome to Finding Your HR Advocacy Voice. My name is Tracy Justice, and I am your host. And here with me today, my podcast partner, Chris Schrader.
How you doing, Tracy?
I am doing great. I am just really curious and really excited to hear what came out of your visit last month. But before we jump into that, we'll do a little bit of an icebreaker. Really, this icebreaker is really me asking you a question, right? So let me get that, because I guess I forgot to cue it up, and then really see how we can get some conversation going with this. So in what ways, right? Because I think that this pretty much sets the foundation for advocacy and why we do it here within the HR world. In what ways could having an HR advocacy voice support the work that we do as HR professionals and the business community we serve? Did you hear me, Chris?
Yes, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't.
Okay.
Sorry. Do I need to type that in, or can I say it?
Well, yeah. Say it. I was just, from your perspective, right? From your wisdom.
Yeah. So the way it supports the work that I do. First of all, I'm a management consultant, so it's really about helping my clients and the business community. But the way the advocacy strengthens those things is because from my standpoint, if we can get laws, regulations, rules, etc., set up properly to foster business development, to foster the development of organizations, to foster the development community, you're going to end up with stronger businesses, you'll end up with a stronger community, and you're going to end up with a stronger workforce, right? So if you do all that right, but it's to me, it's more about getting those things put in place. I really see these as enablers rather than barriers, right? There's a tendency in HR for us to look at laws and regulations as barriers to us getting what we want to get done. And that's what happens when you don't get those laws shaped the right way. And advocacy is a critical piece of that. I've said time and again, FMLA would not look the way it does today, would not drive HR crazy the way it does today, had HR professionals been engaged in advocacy at the time and worked to get the stuff in it that just bedevils us to this day done differently, made it far more practical, made it far more usable, and still protected the rights of the employees that expected to do. But quite frankly, HR wasn't ready for that. HR didn't have a focus on that. HR was disorganized below that. And quite frankly, there are too many people today who think that, look, this is too hard, it's too opaque, I don't understand how it works, and I don't know how to shape the outcome, and in any event, I'm just one person, one voice. I mean, how can I do this? And of course, that's the focus of this podcast, because you can do it.
Yes.
But there's a way you have to go about it, right? So.
Yes. And of course, it's just my segue to really talk about, to always reintroduce the purpose of the podcast, right? And let me just take this off so that I can see your face, Chris. And that's exactly what this is about, right? Truly just being able to understand that, as the administrators, we know what the frustrations are, we know what it's like, and we know that sometimes the outcome that, maybe the law or the bill intended to happen, as HR professionals, we totally know that doesn't necessarily translate into ease for us. So we're not alone, right? And I think that this is definitely why we are doing this. Well, I know this is definitely why we are doing this podcast, to demystify it, because it's really not that difficult. But I think once we get to talk about it, it just makes it easier to understand and comprehend. And so just thank you for indulging me on that question, Chris.
Oh, good. Let's go then. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I'm going to, hold on. Let me just kind of get things going. So I listened to just to kind of check back in on some, first, let me just throw in the disclaimer. I do want to throw that in real quick. Let me find that. And I'm not going to read this, but I just want to make sure that I have this. And for those who have this on the replay, you can definitely pause it and then watch it. But I definitely want to make sure that there's this disclaimer here, just to make sure that, there's just no confusion and there's full transparency of exactly what we're doing here. Um, so I kind of, I went back and I listened to our last podcast just to really kind of pick up on everything because I just thought it was just awesome. It's funny because you're at the train station, right?
Yeah, I was in Union Station. I'd just gotten off the train from Baltimore. And yeah, I couldn't make it to my hotel room in time for the show. So yeah, I broadcasted live from Union Station and had to do that from my phone. I had trouble with my computer to boot. But yeah, but that was all in the run up because the next day, of course, I was going to be on the Hill, and I was.
Yes.
And this is always my most favorite Hill visit is always the one in November. Because it always runs in conjunction with SHRM's Volunteer Leader Business Meeting, VLBM, when they bring in volunteer leaders from all over the country, and so that was the case, and so I was fortunate and had 4 members of chapters across the state, representatives from Evansville and Muncie and Fort Wayne. Down south in New Albany. It was just really good. And they all came to the Hill with me. We had a full day, visited the Senate side in the morning and then went to the House side. So we were going full blast except for lunch from 8 in the morning until 5 at night is when our last office visit ended. But we saw all but one office in the Indiana, 2 offices in the Indiana delegation. So wow. It was a good day. And so as I mentioned at the time, the issues we were carrying up there had to do with 2 bills that SHRM was backing, and I back also. I mean, they were fine bills, but they were both in the House Workforce and Education Committee, chaired by Representative Virginia Fox from Virginia. She's the chair. And of course, the Republicans hold the majority in the House, and so this is a Republican-led committee, and that's why I referenced Virginia Fox, because she's the chair of the committee. And as I've said before in past podcasts, chairs have huge authority in committees, right? They determine what the committee works on, what they hear, what they don't, et cetera. Okay. And she was working really hard to get these bills out of committee because they weren't able to come out in the last Congress.
Okay, and then can you give us the title of the 2 bills?
Sure. So the 2 bills, the first one was the bipartisan Pell Act, and this has to do with Pell Grant application in a non-standard form, and I'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. And the other one was the Stronger Workforce for America Act.
Okay.
And this is the one in which the WIOA, that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is an even older piece of legislation. WIOA was folded into that act. Okay, so these were the 2 acts, but of course, because I've been at this a while, I was using the term WIOA because that was the original legislation, and so we were advocating for both of those bills to come out. And there are 2 members from the Indiana delegation who were on that committee. So we were really focused on those members because they had a vote.
Yes.
So when we were talking like when we were in the Senate, we only mentioned it briefly because until the bill passes the House, the Senate won't have anything to do with it. So in the meeting in the Senate, all I was doing was putting it on their radar.
Okay. Planting the seeds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let's face it, the way the government is designed, the Senate looks at anything the House does as, we'll see when it gets here. So that's a whole separate issue. So that was just setting it up, right? So telling them we were in support. I didn't have an ask to make. I didn't require anything. It just heads up, right? That's all that was. And then we did talk about legislation that's in the Senate. And the interesting thing, and I didn't even realize this, Senator Young's staffer, who we met with, shared with us that Senator Young has been working on a number of workforce initiatives in his committee. Now he's on agriculture.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute, agriculture, what are these labor-like bills, doing in agriculture? And then his staffer explained it was, well, the ag bill is one of the must-do bills in Congress.
The ag bill is one of the must-do bills.
Must-do bills, yeah. So there are basically, 4 must-do bills.
Okay.
Transportation.
Okay.
Right? Agriculture, defense, and government funding. So all those have to happen. And so what Senator Young is doing is embedding these elements in the agriculture bill.
Okay.
Because that's got to pass. That's got to pass.
Oh, is that like
nobody
the packing?
Wants to run for office under, I'm the one that stopped the farmers. It's just, I'm exaggerating, but
no, but yeah. Okay,
defense has to pass. The defense bill has to pass.
But does it make sense? Like, if it's in the ag bill, does workforce?
Okay. So I'm going to digress here a little bit.
Okay.
We've already established, already talked about how it's insanely hard to get legislation done, period. Okay.
Yes.
We've already discussed why that is and the whole thing. As a result, the bills that have to pass, what Senator Young is doing is, so these bills oftentimes become known as Christmas tree bills.
Okay.
So everybody tries to attach their own ornament to the Christmas tree because the Christmas tree has to be put up for Christmas. Get it? Get the analogy?
Yes.
So what Senator Young is doing is building the ornaments into the tree to start out with. So other people will be trying to attach provisions from legislation otherwise couldn't move by itself. This happens all the time. So it's called the amendment process, right? It's built into the Constitution. It's called the amendment process. And so all these bills that couldn't get done, people try to hang their particular ornament on that tree so that as it goes through, their legislation gets carried with it.
Okay.
And so sometimes this comes thing up as a matter of fact, some people say, hey, that ornament is ugly and I won't let the Christmas tree be put up if you have that ornament on. And if there are enough votes, then the ornament gets taken off the tree. You get the drift, right?
Okay.
So what Senator Young is doing is making it native to the tree.
Yeah. Okay. That's smart.
So it'll be hard
to take it apart because then you'd have to take the whole thing
now
down.
You got to chop off limbs. See what I mean? So
yes.
With that analogy. Anyway, so I learned that in that meeting. I didn't realize he was at work like that. So I'm going to be following up with his office to get a better understanding of what those are because they won't be readily apparent, right? You know what I mean? Without reading thousands of pages of a bill.
Yes.
Who wants to do that, right? Who isn't on congressional staff? So I digress a little bit, but
okay, but that helped. That helped.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the Senate. Then we moved to the House. We were talking about WIOA reauthorization, which was built into the Stronger Workforce for America Act, right? So again, WIOA was me using older language because that was the original one. So the way that WIOA works is that it's federal money that basically goes to the states. And the states are the ones that then disperse it. Okay?
Yes.
Got it? Okay, very good. So that bill passed out of committee, okay, with strong bipartisan support. As a matter of fact, I think on both bills, I think WIOA went through unanimous. There was only one no vote on one of those bills, and it was a Republican. So that bill, both those bills passed with unanimous Democrat support. So it is a very, both of these are wildly bipartisan bills.
Okay.
Wildly bipartisan bills, and the fact that so many Democrats were on the bill. Quite frankly, the fact that so many Democrats were on the bill. This isn't this isn't a bipartisan bill that passes with one Democrat or all the
No,
Democrats.
this was quite a few, like
No,
substantial
this is
amount.
legitimately, these are both
Okay.
legitimately, by Washington standards, wildly bipartisan bills. Okay.
So that's super awesome, widely awesome, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So those are now out of committee.
Okay.
So those are now out of committee. And from an HR standpoint, both of these bills are well shaped from our perspective.
Okay.
Especially WIOA, and to a lesser extent the Pell Grant bill, but we were already lined up on that one. So what this means is this is stuff that's very comfortable it's going to be very comfortable for us to use. We aren't going to struggle with these sort of things. And this is what I mean about advocacy having an impact, because when you can get in on the front end and shape how the legislation is built, then you should have a far easier time navigating it when it comes out. This is why I always use the distinction. This is why FMLA looked the way it did, because HR didn't influence a thing.
Yes.
And when we got it and looked at it and said, how is this supposed to work in real life? Well, there you go. So this stuff is being shaped to be used in real life in a way that doesn't force us to pull our lip over our head to make it work, right?
And then, and this is called the Stronger Workforce of America Act?
Stronger Workforce, yes. The Stronger Workforce for America Act.
For America
Act, yeah. So that's what that's called, right? And the other one is literally the Bipartisan Workforce Pell Act, yeah. Bipartisan literally in that, yeah. They're a mouthful. They're a mouthful, right? But at any rate, both of those passed, right?
So what does that look like, though? Like, so I guess I'm just trying to picture in my head, what does a Stronger Workforce for America Act say? What is that?
Well, that's okay. So the good news is anybody could Google it and look it up, and you can easily see what it says. But the nub of it has to do with what will be eligible for funding. So that's where SHRM had a pretty decent influence, was what would be eligible for funding. And so it really expanded how that grant can be used. And the reason that's important is because that's the guidance that then goes to the states.
Oh, okay.
So when the funding comes from behind us, so it's not like the federal. There are some programs the federal government runs, okay, but that's not what this is really about. This is money that goes to the states, and the states have their own branding for it. Every state has their own branding for these things, but it's the federal money coming to the states that the states then disperse. But when the federal government comes with strings, right? So here's all the different ways you could use it.
Yes.
And then the state then turns around and they can use the federal money so long as they conform to that. So they have to have the state can't put in lesser, the state can't constrict that, state mirrors that. See what I mean?
Okay. Yes.
So that's why you got to get it purpose built at the federal level, because then the state then has to follow.
Yes, makes sense. Yes, yes.
Very good.
Because you definitely don't want 50 states forcing the federal to,
Right. So let me back up the truck here. So the purpose of our visits were to express support for that. So in the two offices where Indiana representatives were on those committees and vote, we asked for their vote on that.
Okay.
But that turned out to be real easy because they were both those officers were in support of it already.
Okay.
So
super cool.
Wasn't much of an ask, right? It was like, so we asked, so I said, okay, so where's the boss on this, right? And they were like, both those offices reflected back to us. So staff members said, oh, that we're comfortable with it. We're going to vote for it. I'm like, okay, fine, good. So then with the other delegates, we were talking to them about how bad we wanted it, but we said, until it gets out of committee, there's nothing for you to do, right? But when it hits the floor, we would like your support. So what I asked them to do, so I asked those staff members was, look at those bills. Got any questions, any concerns with them, problems with them, please let me know, right? And we'll address that, whether it's me or a SHRM lobbyist coming by or whatever, but we will, do everything we can to put you at ease with that if you have issues. We'll get those questions answered, right? I wasn't promising legislation would change or anything like that, obviously, but it's you got to get people comfortable with the vote, right?
Yes.
And if there's
Yes.
opposition, you need to know it. And sometimes that opposition can be ameliorated with information or discussion or understanding, right?
Yes.
But you gotta get the objections out of the way, right?
That's right. Yes.
Before there can be a vote. And so I said that. So after those visits, right? So after those visits, then the next important piece comes into play, and that is the thank you email for the meeting.
Okay. And this is after you've left?
So after I left, so we had all those meetings, talked to all those offices, had great discussions. So, quite frankly, one of the things I enjoy about my role is that it's easy to work with the Indiana delegation, because the likelihood that they're going to be on the opposite side of what we want is usually very, very low.
Yeah, especially because you're very active here within the state of Indiana, so you're well aware.
Well, that's part of it. But just bluntly put, most of them are Republican. I mean, I'm not a partisan person, right? I'm just.
But you understand that that
now,
does impact. Yeah.
Now this is a good segue, because there are two Democratic office holders in Indiana. Frank Mervan, Frank Jr. Mervan, up in Indiana 1, and in Indiana Central part, that's I'm drawing a blank. This is terrible. Andre Carson.
Oh, Andre Carson. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, I knew his grandmother well. So
that's right. That's right.
He held the office before, so I was struggling there. Apologize, but Andre Carson. And so we did not have a meeting in Representative Carson's office, because he's had very strict rules. His grandmother was the same way. He does not see anyone, take a visit from anyone who is not from his district. And
that's still a current thing.
Yeah. So he does. Now, no other office in the Indiana delegation does that, but he does. His grandmother did before. So, as a matter of fact, I've personally never ever had an office visit in an office, because I'm not
with the machine. Is that what?
Yeah, but every other office sees me; they don't care. So, so at any rate.
So, quick question. So, but is there in any way, shape, or form that his office being able to meet with you could be beneficial for his constituents?
Well, I would certainly think so, but that's just the position that they take, and they've had it for decades, right? I mean, it's nothing new. And so, and he does. If people if representatives from 8-year chapter, HR. Indy
live within,
are in his district, then I'm very confident he would see you. Now,
so then that's a strategy for next year.
Now you live in Avon?
No, in the Hendricks, so no, Hendricks. I wouldn't.
Not your representative. I think you're representative.
No, not my representative. No.
Aren't you representative?
Sturwald?
No,
Thompson?
Sturwald is the Indiana House delegate.
You're talking about Baird. Is it?
Baird. It's Baird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in his office. I was in Representative Baird's office. Yeah. So anyway, but let me segue here, because I was in Representative Mervan's office.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be a tougher ask for his office, because one of the things that specific concerns. Now, the Democrats on the committee voted for it anyway, so I want to emphasize that the Democrats on the committee voted for it anyway. But one of the things that they were uncomfortable with in the WIOA grants is that businesses in states could apply for those grant monies themselves. So let's say that a business in Indianapolis wanted to do upskill training for its employees as well as prospective employees. Let's just say, hey, we're having a heck of a time hiring people, and so we've got applicants for our jobs that we would hire an
Possible.
administrator that knew how to do this. And so we want to run a program to upskill all of them. Some of them will be our employees and some will be people that we'll hire as soon as they're finished. Right.
Okay.
But we, the company, are going to run that.
Yes.
Okay. So, and this is nothing new.
Okay.
Historically, Democrats have been very reluctant to take public money and hand it directly to employers and say, do this.
Okay.
Okay. Uncomfortable with handing it to employers, uncomfortable with the oversight arrangement in that kind of thing, like how we et cetera.
Okay.
So I am not casting any aspersion on that concern. I'm just describing the concern. Okay.
No, yeah, I think
it's been a historical one. This is nothing new.
Look into the mindset. Yeah, it's just understand.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have to. Well, in order to be effective in this job, you kind of got to know where the people you're talking to are going to be coming from. What is their level set? What's the lens through which they are perceiving the challenge? What is the lens through which they are perceiving the world? Right? You have to understand that. You have to meet them where they are. And so when we were in Representative Mervan's office, I got out in front of this and I said, look, we want this. We think this is a positive. Understand, your boss may have some concerns. And it was reflected. Yeah, there were some concerns there. I was unsurprised.
Oh, and they did confirm that there were some concerns. There were concerns.
Now she had not looked at the bill yet, right? Because Representative Mervan is not on the committee, so there's no reason to the bill isn't on the floor, right? So they could look into it, but she hadn't seen it. And let's face it, out of everything they've got to get done, you don't worry about the stuff you don't have to worry about yet, right?
That's right.
Nothing untoward to that. So I just got right out in front and said, you're going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that. We're in support. Okay. We're in support and we're still going to make the ask. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I follow up with that office, I won't be surprised if they don't reflect that back. And what I'm going to say is, hear you. I got you. We see it differently, but I completely understand. Still asking for your vote. And by the way, every Democrat on that committee found a way to vote for that bill. Just saying.
Yes.
Right. Just saying. That doesn't mean you're going to, in the end, your vote is your vote, right? All I can do is ask. That's why it's called an ask.
And what do you think what do you think their office would have preferred?
That employers not be eligible to directly apply for that money. Yeah.
So then who could, I guess because, so who?
So the way, so employers can file for those grants, right? But it's typically the training is not done by the employer, it's done by a third party.
Oh,
see what I mean?
Okay. So a consulting agency would,
a third party that would contract directly with the state. And so the state has oversight of the money. That third party, see what I mean? So it's not, they're not, the businesses are benefiting, make no mistake about it. And for the record,
but there's just an added layer, added layer.
Right. And for the record, I've never met a Democrat who ever had an argument with a business benefiting from its workers having greater skill.
Yes.
I have never heard that ever.
Yes.
So that's not the rub.
No, it's just that extra oversight layer that they would like.
It's public money. Okay.
Yes.
It's like I said, I get it. I totally get it.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. And so again, you got to know where the offices you're going to talk to are going to be coming from, right? It's common sense.
Yes.
And so, you just know if it's going to be rough or sledding. I've run into the same issue in Republican offices where stuff that we wanted and how it went wasn't exactly how they tend to see the world or are comfortable with. And it was rough sledding there. So again, this is important advocacy. You can't put on a jersey. You can't walk in wearing the R jersey. You can't go walk in.
That's right.
The D jersey. I say it all the time. The only jersey I wear says HR on it.
That's right. And honestly, what is it? Better workplace and a better world? Honestly, yes.
Having said all that, and that's the other thing too, when it's HR, you're far more effective when they know you have very clear positions, when you have policy pegs, when
Yes.
when they know how you're going to come at an issue. I work very hard not to surprise people. You should know where I'm coming from before I even walk in the door. If I'm being consistent, if the
That's
things we
right.
stand for are consistent and the policy pegs we have are consistent, you should not be surprised on my position any more than I should be surprised by yours. Right.
Definitely. And I think
So
it's key just to
you
really
just
just,
work to find the most common ground you have, and
yes,
hopefully you get enough votes to push it across the line. Right.
yes.
So
And just
I'm
real quick, Chris, I just want to point out that I think just emphasize that it's really about understanding that mindset. It's
yeah,
really not about, having a political part. I mean, because we have our political party preferences, and that's okay. But it's not about bringing that into this
no,
scene.
and
It's
you
about
can't
making
walk
sure,
in. Yeah, you
yes.
can't walk in and say, "Look, this would all go a lot easier if you just realize that I'm right and you're wrong."
No, no, not at all.
You won't get very far like that. Now, that doesn't
No.
say you don't hold your ground, and you don't say, "Look, we just this appears to be a matter on which we can't find common ground." And sometimes that
Yes.
happens, right? It's entirely, I would argue, fine for perfectly reasonable, rational people to not agree.
Mm-hmm. And
I,
it
I,
makes
I
sense.
think that's perfectly permissible. But at any rate, okay, so what I had to do was these thank you emails, right?
Okay.
So in the thank you email, of course, it basically has three components, right? So the first thing is thanks for your time, you're very generous, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Really appreciate your attention to, and then you reiterate your three key points, whatever they were. So you
Okay.
restate
Yes.
that. And then
Yes.
what I always like to do in the last visit of the year, I put in a line that says, really appreciated all the time and attention you gave us, and we felt listened to, we felt cared for,
Mm.
and please share this email with your boss so that
Yes. Yes.
he or
Yes.
she knows
Mm-hmm.
because staff get wailed on a
Yes.
daily. They get screamed at. They get not by their bosses. I mean,
No, I know by everyone else. Yeah, definitely.
people get wound up and they call in and have at it, and
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, a little appreciation goes a long way.
No, yeah,
Just
definitely.
like with employees,
Definitely. And
it's no different a practice than I would have, with my own people, right?
for
So,
sure. And it's
yeah,
not policy, but I mean, it's not politics, but
it's
it
not
is
politics,
by the
policy,
means of,
right?
but it's, yeah,
Policy,
you got to
yeah.
do these.
So
Yes.
anyway, so sent one of those emails to every single one of those offices, right? And then the
Yes.
close, and then the very end of it was, you know, um, I'll contact you if and when the legislation moves to the floor. And in any
Okay.
event, I will see you in the spring because that's my next visit is in March, right? So that's always
Mm-hmm.
the ending piece is setting up. You always need to set up the next communication because there's always going to be a next communication, a next visit, a next
Yes.
contact. To be effective at this, it does need to be consistent.
Yes. You want them expecting your visit, your return,
Well, yeah, because you
Yes.
also don't want to, you also don't want to only be in front of them with your hand out,
Definitely. Definitely.
right? I mean, because that's
Because then it's just transactional. And really, at the end of the day, it's
there
not
you
really
go. I like
about
the way you
that.
put that. I like the way you
Yeah.
put that. Yeah, yeah. You're going to be effective in this role, like anything else in life. You're going to be effective in this role building a relationship
Yes.
because relationships aren't transactional. No, they shouldn't be. Put it that way.
Yeah,
That'd be
definitely they shouldn't be. Yeah,
that'd
there
be
should be a win-win.
that'd be kind of a crappy
For sure, for
relationship.
sure.
But anyway, yeah. Having said
Now,
so that's what I did immediately after the visit. So in our last podcast, I talked about got these meetings tomorrow.
yes, yes,
The
yes.
meetings went off. We talked about YOO. We talked about the workforce Pell, and then I did the email. So now we move to Tuesday of this week. So on Tuesday of this
Okay.
week, both of those bills passed out of the committee. Okay.
Okay.
So robustly bipartisan, all the Republicans but one. So now the ball is in the court of the Speaker of the House.
Okay.
Okay. So the Speaker of the House is the one who determines what bills come up when.
Oh,
That's their
okay.
power. So that's their.
Okay.
So we have a new Speaker of the House, right? So
Mm-hmm.
finally got somebody in. So not the interim. So Johnson, right, is his name, Mike
Mm-hmm.
Johnson. So
Yes, yes, yes.
the ball is now in his court, and he is the one that
Oh.
picks when and if that comes up. Now, the guidance that I have received from SHRM National
Uh-huh.
is that there is simply too little calendar left in this year. Okay, to
Okay.
get it done. Just not enough working days. Because believe it or not, but everybody in Congress would like to be home with their family for Christmas. Go figure.
Really? Do
Yeah.
they did
Strange thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so, but
So anyway, so they're gonna do their stuff and get out basically as fast as they can, right? And this is December 13th, and so how
so
many
would
shots?
it be called killed or
Huh?
dead? Is this
Pardon me?
so is this called killed or dead? Like what is the
No,
terminology for it?
no, because when they come back, see, this is a term of Congress runs 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now finishing the first leg of this Congress. So there's
Okay.
still a whole nother year left.
Okay. So
Okay.
there's still enough time for them to pick this back up within this.
Yes,
Okay.
but it's also an election year. Okay, so this really needs in the first quarter, like January, February, March, because you got to remember.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the primaries will be in the spring, and then the general election will be in November. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So primaries run all over the lot, right? So some are as early, they're usually like March, April, May. I mean, there's some
Mm-hmm.
states that do them as late as June,
Wow,
July.
but early as March, huh? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So now it's very rare for a sitting member to get primary, but it does happen. But 99% of these people will not have a primary opponent. So they're going to skate through the primaries. They don't put any, you don't have to put any effort. If you're running unopposed, I mean, really, how much do you have to put in? But they will, because they're going to be running in November, right? So you don't want to be totally absent.
Yeah. You want to have your name.
But if you have a primary opponent, you've already been at work. You're already, not much of Christmas for you. But at any rate, this needs to get done soonish, because the deeper you go into the year, the more time they're going to be spending campaigning, depending upon how much effort they think it's going to take to get reelected. Right.
Wow. So
you got to remember,
what does that look like?
The Iowa caucuses are in what, 20 days?
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, we're already in it. Next year is an election year. So if
what does that
if
look
you're
like?
running for your job, as every House member is,
that's right.
Remember,
that's right.
Every single House seat is up. 1/3 of the Senate, but every single House seat is up. So it's imperative, really, that this bill come up, January, February, ideally, to pass.
So then what does HR advocacy activities look
like?
Right.
Okay. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Okay.
That's going to segue. So now that the bill is going to be headed to the floor, what I'm going to be doing over, well, not Christmas time, but I will send out emails. I will send out emails next week to all the offices in the Indiana delegation. Expressing my support for the bill. Today I'm going to be following up, and then come January I'm going to be calling all those offices. So this will be a phone call, calling all those offices, making the ask for their support for the bill when it comes to the floor, and seeing if they can get their commitment. Okay. So what you want is commitment. So the terminology, when you're from a legislative standpoint, this is vote counting.
Vote
So
counting.
I'm trying to vote counting. So I'm trying to
Okay.
line up the Indiana votes. Okay. Line up the Indiana votes. So,
Yes.
and get their commitment to vote for the bill. Okay. So that way, when it comes to the floor, then, all I can do is, the Indiana side of it, right? Just the Indiana
Yes.
side.
So how
So
can HR
I will
professionals,
be, I will be also enlisting the help of Indiana
okay,
A-team members, right? So I'm sure
okay,
an A-team communication coming from DC. I'm going to talk
okay,
about this in the state conference newsletter or state council newsletter. Uh,
mm-hmm,
yeah, so there will be lots of communication around this, right?
okay.
I'm not going to be, ideally, I won't be the only one calling the office asking for the vote.
Exactly, exactly.
Should
And we're going to be asking for the Stronger Workforce of America for America Act and the what is it? The
bipartisan
bipartisan
workforce
Pell Grant. Now,
Great.
now we didn't go over that, did we? Did you?
No,
Did
we
you?
didn't. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
didn't talk about that. So basically what this is an expansion of the Pell. Okay. So you got to go all the way back, turn on the Wayback Machine. And when Pell Grants were first established, right?
Okay.
Named after the legislator who championed the bill, right? Pell. So the
Okay. I just know it
yeah,
from
yeah,
college.
you get legislation. Yeah, you can get legislation named after you.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
So,
Okay.
the Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA, the Immigration Reform and Control Act, the
Yes.
actual that was actually the Simpson-Mazzoli bill, named
Oh,
for
okay.
named for Simpson and Mazzoli, the two. The Republican was Simpson, the Democrat was Mazzoli, Steve Mazzoli. They were the ones that carried that bill.
Okay.
So that was
Okay.
referred to as Simpson-Mazzoli until it formally became known as the Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So I digress. Anyway, Pell Grants. So Pell Grants were designed to provide federal funding so that qualifying students who are, for lack of a better term, dirt poor, would be able to go to college. And at the time they were created, the idea was four-year college. Okay. So flash forward to today.
Yes.
College enrollment is down and way down when it comes to males, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, way down. Yeah, it's college enrollment now is 60-40 female.
60-40 female. Oh, wow. Okay. And
Oh
I know
yeah.
that you're
Oh
saying
yeah.
that,
When you go back to when Pell was created, I mean, it was
well, yeah.
70-30 probably, or even 80-20, right?
Pretty
So now
sure.
that has completely flipped, right?
Okay.
And so you have fewer and fewer students of any gender going to college, and for good reason, right? It's super costly. Even if the Pell Grant is free, it's still costly in terms of time. 4 years of your life.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a lot.
that was
That's a
one of the
big
reasons why
commitment.
I said, that was one of the reasons why I said I didn't want to go to college. He was like, I don't want to spend 4 years of my life in school.
Yeah, no, not definitely.
Isn't there something shorter?
And especially the way that the workforce is today, right? Like nobody wants to, yeah.
He went to a 2-year trade school, right? So I mean, he was like, "Get me out of here," right? So,
Yes.
what this bill does is recognize, hey, look, we're an entirely different world now, you know. And you look at all the big companies. I mean, IBM, Google, Facebook. I mean, college degree required, on the job description is just falling like leaves from a tree in October. I mean,
So you're even noticing it from those big corporations
they don't even
well.
know. I mean, the companies are
Okay.
stripping that requirement away left and right.
Okay.
Left and right. I mean, because I think it's really reflective of how work has changed, right? I mean, we've moved.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like I don't want to say a college degree is worthless. Quite to the contrary, right? I mean, it has its place, right? But for people who want to work,
that's right.
For people who want to work, who don't want to make the 4-year investment, stuff like that, we see this all the time now, right? I use an example of Ivy Tech that's got all kinds of courses, become Microsoft certified in this, or certified in Python or whatever, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
These are skill certifications. Okay, this is not a degree. This is not a diploma. These are skill certifications. And what what a lot of employers want today more than anything is,
Our
no,
skills.
can you do this? If I
Yes, can
put
you
you
do
in
this?
this chair on
Exactly.
this line in this spot, could you actually do that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what those certifications do. Now, for students that have money or a parental support or savings or a job or whatever to produce the means, they could pursue these kinds of things.
Yes,
But
yes,
poor kids, no.
yes.
And
And
the Pell Grants wouldn't let them, right? The Pell Grant Act
mm-hmm.
today doesn't permit that. So what this design is doing is like, yeah, you can use the Pell for that too, for Pete's sake. I mean, this is
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
we're back,
honestly, because a credential or a degree shouldn't stop someone from being
and
able
it
to
isn't going
live
to end
a full
it
life.
doesn't end the Pell Grants for four-year college. I mean, that program still
But it
stands.
opens it up, right?
It opens it up. Now this is where it's going to get
Oh,
tough
okay.
because you need the money.
Uh,
Because they're
so,
not going to siphon money away.
so really not, because I guess that was going to be the question. So
That's
if
going to be the
there's
problem.
less enrollment or less admissions, then what couldn't the money kind of be reallocated instead of
Well, you would think
needing?
that, but you know, once money gets moving in a certain direction in Washington, good luck stopping it.
So they're going to continue to
I'll give you an
allocate money
example. I'll
for the
give you an
Oh,
example.
okay.
I'll give you an example. To this day, to this very day, the United States sets aside money for the distinct purpose of the Strategic Helium Reserve for
Wait, wait.
blimps.
Say that again.
Helium Reserve
Strategic Helium Reserve.
for airships. Because in
Oh,
World War I, there were airships. You know, the big
okay.
Zeppelins, you know, that they use
Yeah, the
those.
Zeppelins that we know. Don't tell me. No, no, you're not going to say that. No, you're not going to say that. So it's
100%.
just sitting there. So is the money
The
just
money's
sitting?
there. The money's there. The helium's there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
My whole
Okay.
point is once money gets moving in a certain direction in
It's hard
Washington,
to kind of stop that momentum.
well, because the money ensures that a whole ecosystem on the other side gets built to leverage it, and that ecosystem becomes powerful to keep the money flowing.
Say that again. So what does that mean?
Once government money gets flowing in a certain direction, on the other side of that, things get built to leverage that money. So for instance, colleges and universities are the ones on the receiving ends of Pell Grants.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think they have a vested interest in having that tap turned off?
Well, the colleges.
Would they like to see that money go away?
No, I don't know because
No.
But
Indiana University has, I'm making this up. I have no idea what the enrollment is, but let's say they have 5,000 students at Indiana University and the federal government is cutting checks for every one of them. The federal government hands that money to IU.
yes.
Okay. Does IU want less money available?
Well, no, of course not.
No.
So you're saying that they're going to go fight it
tooth and nail?
Okay, they're gonna. Okay, I hear. Okay, I see the point. They're gonna. Even though that if the mission numbers go down, what?
Tooth and nail. To the end, to the bitter end, they would fight because that's revenue to them.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm not making them out to be bad people. Okay.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense. Yeah, of course they're gonna fight to protect their their interests. Definitely makes sense. That's
so if you went to the college or university, so just imagine this. So they all have lobbyists, right? So let's say some enterprising person says, you know what? College enrollment is down. Fact of matter. That's just what it is. And we got all this money sitting here that's going in this direction when the need is over here to go in this direction. So instead of spending a whole pile more new money, let's just throw in 25% of what we anticipate the need to be, and we'll just trim a little bit from the college money,
Uh-huh.
well, let's face it, the demand is down.
Yeah.
What kind of email do you think would go out from the lobbyists to the universities? Alert!
Oh,
Funding in
definitely.
danger.
Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense.
Write your representative today to vote no.
So this could be a possible barrier to,
Coming up
expanding
with the
funds
money.
for
Coming up with
moving
the
towards a
money.
skills-based.
Coming up with
Wow.
the money. So okay, another fight, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
It's always one thing after another, right? So that's going to be a rub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I could easily see a situation where you can see a certain number of Republicans saying, hey, look, we're all for it. But if you want us to spend a whole bunch of money when the deficit is already in the trillions, asking a lot. I mean, I want to help. I really do. I want to help. And
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to say you're taking money away from the university because that could impact, their
well,
workforce.
I can see a lot of Republicans saying, look, college enrollment is down and you got a whole lot of money sitting there. I mean, really? Can't we just shift this kind of thing? Well, then you got a whole nother fight.
Well, because they've done it with the public schools. I mean, right? I'm just thinking like with the school
Right.
choice and the money
Yeah. So
moved over.
You can
Yes.
already see the arguments forming, right?
Yeah.
So
That
again,
precedence has already been set. I
again,
say.
you see why it's hard to get legislation across the line.
Yes, definitely. And I would say it's so key to really understand, like we said, we're not saying get into the politics and be for, wearing the jersey of an R or a D or even an L.
So
But what we're
basically,
saying is understanding the mindset of each, of each
right.
party so that you understand how to advocate and how to navigate and how to build those relationships.
And
Yes.
let's face it, nobody, think about it, right? If you're on the other side of this, let's just say that you are a very successful not-for-profit that has over the course of years been super successful at helping deserving kids file for Pell Grants, get qualified for Pell Grants, get routed to the right type of university, get the right type of support. And you're the person that has orchestrated all of that. And you've got a laundry list of kids that you have helped over 20 years, a mile long, and now they're doctors in your community or they're business owners in your community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you find out that they want to cut those funds for this other deserving thing. How do you feel?
Oh, so does it mean that because if the Pell Grant was for, like you said, for lower income people?
What I'm saying is there are
So
there are
the
folks
income
involved,
levels.
there are folks involved who would want to protect those interests. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
So I see what you're saying.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, you can't ever assume that just because what we want to get done is good from our perspective and valuable from our perspective, and all those things are 100% true, right? That there aren't folks on the other side who might get clipped.
Yes.
And not feel so charitable about what we're trying to get.
No, yes, definitely.
Right? So there's two pieces of this, right? There's the legislation and then there's the money. So it's been through markup. It's been through markup, right? So the ask on the money is there.
Okay.
The ask on the money is there. Okay.
Is there a significant amount being requested?
I'd have to go back and look at it. Well,
Okay.
It's not change, but let's face it, it's Washington, D.C. If it's not, millions of dollars, are you really serious? I mean, so.
Oh, wow. So this is something that Mike Johnson that, so it's pretty much getting, finding a way to.
Again, this is why you got to horse the thing over the line, right? I mean, stuff just doesn't magically happen. You got to work the bills, for Pete's sake. You got to work the bills.
Okay. So you're going to keep us.
I'm just pointing out some of the barriers, some of the challenges that we're going to face are going to be monetary. Maybe the number is too tall, right? Maybe some representatives have trouble with the number. So they don't have trouble with the structure. They have a trouble with the number. Some people may be okay with the money, but trouble with the structure. So all that stuff is just going to be, you got to work the bill to get it over the finish line. That's all there's to it. And then we got to do it all over again when it hits the Senate. Then you get to do it all over again when it hits the Senate.
Yeah, because the fun just never ends. So we have about like 5 more minutes left, Chris.
Yeah.
But so what we're saying is that so next steps is that you're going to be reaching out here in the beginning of the year, and reaching out and just kind of
Moving
touching
Indian
base and then
delegation in
asking,
the House
okay,
and asking for their vote. Now,
asking for their vote.
obviously, the representatives who voted for the bill in the first place are not going to turn around and vote against it, right? I mean,
Yes, yes.
there are two offices that all I'm going to do is thank them, and then I will leave them alone.
Okay.
But
So then you just,
they voted for the bill. They're not going to. I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to take time from somebody's day to ask them to do something they're already going to do.
yes, because you've already had the conversation, but it's just like, hey, just
No,
say
that's two offices. That's two offices. All the
two
others,
offices. Okay.
different. That's a call. That's an ask. Find out if they have any concerns or anything like that. If they do, then I'll work with SHRM, see how we can get those addressed. So I don't want to make it sound like getting it out of the committee means it's a layup. It's not.
And that's what, because
That
at
was
first
the
I was
first
going to say,
hurdle.
at
That was
first I
the
was going to
first hurdle.
say we should be excited, right? But then as
Oh
you
yeah, of
start,
course I'm
yeah,
excited.
but
I'm
we
very
should be,
happy.
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
now
there's
it
still
just,
more.
there's
Okay.
more. There's more. I mean, just because you got to get through the House, then you got to get to the Senate, which means it's going to get routed to a Senate committee, which means you got to work on the Senate committee, which means you got to get that thing to come out intact to that and hope it's something the House can still vote for. And then you got to work to get that thing passed through the Senate. So we are many moons away from anything getting done, but
Okay.
it's a necessary part of the process. Is this a victory? Absolutely.
Okay. And
More
so
to
it's
be
the
done.
first part of the process. At least we can have conversations moving in that direction, and figuring out
Correct.
what obstacles are in
Yeah.
this
We got
direction.
out of
Yeah.
committee. Yay. Right. We're going to head to the floor. Yay. Still got to get
Yes.
off the floor. Still got to get off the floor.
And so what we had agreed that we would do this like every fourth Wednesday, right?
Yes. Correct.
So January 10th is going to be the next would be the next date. By January 10th, do you think that what kind of updates or conversations do you think
Well, by January
everyone can
10th, I'll
expect?
be able to talk about my interactions with those offices and my sense of where those votes are.
Okay. And then you'll let us know, like, what you need the HR community to maybe,
Of course.
yes. Okay.
Me, SHRM, trust me. Yeah, people are not going to be at a loss for for being contacted if we do it right. Right.
No,
But
super.
again, the key here once again is engagement. The objective of successful advocacy should be the long haul, the building the relationship, the consistency of the positions, the mutual respect, all of that.
Yes.
That's how you're successful. It's like anything else in life. If you're going to be successful at it, it takes effort.
Definitely. And I think, and through the relationship building and through just, staying consistent and building those relationships, I believe everyone will be able to find their own authentic HR advocacy voice for sure.
Agreed.
Yes,
Agreed.
definitely.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, so actually we are we have about like 2 more minutes. How do you want to wrap up everything? And then, I'll queue up the last
Stay tuned.
scene.
Stay tuned. Sign up for the podcast when it's live, and just hopefully learn.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? There were some key things that you said. Let's see. Okay. Oh, just 1 more minute, but maybe we can talk about. But when you talked about the labor deficit, and we talked about the replacement rate, even talked about. Oh gosh, there were some. The scarcity. I think that these are some things I'd like to even bring into the top. I'm sorry.
Labor scarcity.
Yeah, labor scarcity. I think that these are things that I would definitely love for us to
Well,
jump
a lot of
into
this
a little
stuff,
bit.
and that's known and that's understood, and that was a part of the workforce Pell piece. I mean, this
Yes.
is on the radar of Congress. They
Yes.
know this is an issue. Yeah. Okay.
So definitely.
Okay,
So
well,
thank you so much, Chris.
Sure.
Yes.
We'll see you again on the 10th.
Definitely, for sure. Everyone, thank you so much for joining in, and definitely register for the next episode. That will be coming out soon, information on that. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful evening.
Yep. Very good.